welcome to This Explainer. Today we are digging into something really fascinating, how an 80-year-old quality management philosophy is literally the hidden blueprint behind today's most progressive occupational safety frameworks. We're talking about the legendary W. Edwards Deming, and we're going to see how his foundational theories on manufacturing quality are secretly driving the way we look at risk and safety today. Okay, let's kick things off with a pretty provocative question. For decades, when an accident happened on the floor, the default reaction was to point the finger right at the worker, right? Human error, inattention, a failure to follow the rules. But what if that whole paradigm is totally backwards? What if the root cause isn't actually the person at all, but the system they're forced to operate within? So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with Deming's unlikely background, break down his foundational system of profound knowledge, translate his 14 points into a safety context, dig into his famous 94% rule, and finally look at whether modern safety pros actually agree with all this. Let's get into it. Section 1. The Unlikely Pioneer. It's actually kind of crazy, but the greatest safety innovator of our time wasn't even a safety expert. Deming was a physicist and a statistician. He got his PhD from Yale way back in 1928, and by 39 he was working at the U.S. Census Bureau. But his real claim to fame happened in the 1950s. He took his statistical quality control methods over to Japan after World War II and basically sparked the Japanese quality miracle in manufacturing. By the time his massive book, Out of the Crisis, dropped in 1986, his systemic thinking had completely revolutionized global industry. He was obsessed with quality, not safety. But, as we're going to see, the two are totally inseparable. Section 2. The System of Profound Knowledge. Now, before we can start applying his famous 14 points to risk management, we really need to grasp the theory behind them. Deming called this the System of Profound Knowledge, or SOPK. It's this incredibly holistic management philosophy. The main idea? You can't just cherry-pick management tactics. You need a really deep understanding of four connected things: systems, variation, the theory of knowledge, and psychology. And here's the kicker. You cannot separate these four elements. You have to appreciate the system as a whole rather than just optimizing little pieces of it. You need to understand statistical variation to know if an issue is systemic or just a random one-off. You need the theory of knowledge to understand how we actually learn and predict things. And psychology? Well, you have to understand human behavior, pride, and fear. You literally cannot manage statistical variation without understanding what motivates people. If you try managing without all four of these, you're absolutely going to run into some serious unintended consequences. Section 3. Translating the 14 points. Bridging the gap from manufacturing quality, where a defect means a recalled part, to safety, where a defect means a serious injury, exposes a huge shift in mindset. Traditional safety leans heavily on fear, lagging metrics like total recordable incident rates, arbitrary quotas, and those generic zero-harm posters that don't actually change the physical work environment. Deming's philosophy is the complete opposite. It demands psychological safety, systems thinking, and replacing empty slogans with genuine systemic leadership. It's all about designing safety into the process rather than just trying to inspect it or punish workers into compliance after the fact. Let's look at Deming's point 5, improve constantly. His mandate to improve constantly and forever uses the plan, do, study, act cycle, the PDSA cycle. And honestly, this is literally the backbone of modern safety frameworks. If you look at the ISO 45001 health and safety standard today, the entire structure is built on this exact continuous improvement loop. It's not just a one-time safety audit. It's a relentless, embedded process of finding hazards, implementing controls, monitoring them, and acting on new learnings. And then we have point 8, drive out fear. This might actually be his most vital contribution to our field. Decades ago, Deming figured out that the fear of reprisal, ridicule, or punishment absolutely kills near-miss reporting. It just creates hidden risks. If workers are terrified they'll get blamed for an honest mistake, they simply won't report it. He completely anticipated today's massive push for a just culture. Low-fear organizations have way higher reporting rates, and consequently, far fewer serious injuries. Translating his other points requires some radical shifts for an organization, too. Point 3 says to cease dependence on inspection. In safety terms, that means eliminating hazards at the design source, rather than just slapping on some PPE or making an administrative rule. Point 4, end awarding business on price tag alone. Going with the lowest bid contractor often just imports a garbage safety culture right onto your site. Point 11 demands we ditch arbitrary numerical quotas. Chasing zero recordables usually just incentivizes hiding injuries, not preventing them. And point 9, break down departmental silos. Safety cannot just live in the EHS department. Engineering, ops, and procurement all have to be on the same page. Section 4, the 94% rule. Okay, this brings us to what I think is Deming's absolute mic drop moment for safety. It's a profound paradigm shift. 94%, a massive 94% of problems are inherent in the system. Just let that sink in for a second. That means the vast majority of errors, defects, and safety incidents are born out of the actual processes, the equipment design, the training systems, and the management policies. Therefore, they are management's responsibility to fix, not the fault of the individual worker on the line. Deming categorized this as common causes versus special causes. Common causes are baked into your system. They drive that 94%. Special causes are those assignable, one-off events that make up the tiny remainder. This completely shatters legacy safety programs that instantly default to worker error or inattention as the root cause during an investigation. If an error is a common cause, punishing the worker does absolutely nothing to prevent the next accident because the system itself is still broken. Section 5. Do safety professionals agree? So does modern industry actually embrace this 80-year-old philosophy from a statistician? Well, there's a pretty fascinating divide. Deming is viewed as highly, highly credible by strategic risk leaders, by practitioners of human and organizational performance, and across high-hazard industries. On the flip side, you'll sometimes see his ideas brushed off as less relevant by entry-level compliance roles or advocates of traditional behavior-based safety who might still rely really heavily on basic checklists. But at the strategic level, the alignment is undeniable. Modern movements like human and organizational performance, or HOP, which literally operates on the premise that error is normal, directly echo Deming's 94% rule. Frameworks like Safety 2 and Resilience Engineering, which focus on understanding how work succeeds despite variability, that is pure Deming. He might not get name-dropped as often as safety-specific pioneers like Heinrich or Reason, but make no mistake, Deming's principles are the hidden foundation of today's most progressive standards, including ISO 45001 and ANSI Z10.
Conclusion: the transformation.
Getting away from fear, arbitrary quotas, and worker blame isn't just a quick tweak to your safety manual. It requires a massive, organization-wide commitment to continuous learning. Deming's 14th and final point says it best. Put everybody in the company to work to accomplish the transformation. The transformation is everybody's job. This reminds us that you cannot silo a generative, learning-based safety culture into just the safety department. Every worker, supervisor, engineer, and executive has a role in reporting, improving, and designing safer systems. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to assess your own organization's culture. Are you truly designing safer systems, or are you just gaming the metrics? If your primary goal is just hitting a numerical target like 0 recordable incidents, Deming would warn you that you're probably just managing numbers, while the real underlying systemic risks go completely unchecked. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this deep dive into Deming's 14 points gives you a powerful new lens for transforming your own approach to risk and safety.